The ink hadn't even dried on the paperwork when I found out. They gave the entire family business, everything I had built, bled, and burned out for, to my younger brother. Quietly, behind my back. And then had the nerve to tell me during lunch like it was an update about the weather. My name is Claire. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever poured yourself into something until you had nothing left, only to realize the people you were sacrificing for were just watching, waiting to pass the reward to someone else? That day, I was sitting in my dad's office, finishing invoices for a massive supplier contract I negotiated, one that would secure our cash flow for 6 months. My eyes were burning from lack of sleep. 75 hours that week alone. No pay. No title. Just loyalty. Dad walked in with Mom and Jacob, my brother, all smiles. Big news, he said, clapping Jacob on the back. We finalized the papers. Jacob's officially CEO in training. He'll take over next quarter. I blinked. I'm sorry, what? Mom chuckled like I'd missed a joke. Don't look so shocked, honey. You've always been the backbone. But Jacob's got the big picture mind. Jacob didn't even look up from his phone. I felt my heartbeat thud behind my eyes. I wasn't even angry yet. I was stunned. You said we decide together. I said slowly. You said. Dad waved me off. Claire, don't get emotional. You're family. You'll always have a place here. Always have a place here. Like a pet. Or a painting on the wall. I looked around the office. The framed awards I'd won for a marketing turnaround. The whiteboard still stained with my brainstorming sketches. The coffee machine I bought with my own money because the old one broke and no one bothered to replace it. You want Jacob to run this? I asked, my voice low. Then let him. I walked out without another word. That night, I didn't show up to close the quarterly deal with our biggest client. The next morning, my phone buzzed with a panicked call from Dad. Claire, the Anderson Group is threatening to walk. No one has the numbers. Jacob doesn't even know the contact person. Where are you? I stared at my phone for a long, cold second. Then I answered with 4 words. Let him handle it. And added one more for good measure. He's the heir, right? Their faces must have gone pale. Because for the first time, I wasn't just the backbone. I was the silence that let it all collapse. You don't realize how heavy something is until you stop carrying it. And that week, the one after I walked out, I felt the weight fall off in layers. Number 3 a.m. quote requests. No early morning favor emails. No unpaid client meetings where I was expected to smile while Jacob showed up late, unprepared, and somehow still got praised for trying. I stayed home. I slept. I turned off my work phone, ignored the Slack notifications, and let the chaos rise, without me there to smother it with solutions. It took less than 48 hours for the cracks to show. Jacob, the heir, forgot to renew 2 vendor contracts. One expired during a supply run. Another triggered a late fee. The finance team, confused without my usual reminders, missed payroll processing. Staff started asking questions. But the Anderson Group? That was the real avalanche. They weren't just clients. They were my clients. The ones I nurtured, met for coffee, remembered birthdays for. They didn't do business with the Green family. They did business with me. So when Jacob called them and couldn't answer a single question about deliverables, they laughed, then sent a termination notice within the hour. Dad called again, voice cracked open like a man watching his house burn. Claire, please. We can fix this. Just come back and help your brother get through the transition. I didn't yell. I didn't even flinch. I simply asked, did he mention the company values when he called them? What? I smiled sadly. That was the first thing I taught every client. That we were about service, consistency, and trust.
Did he mention that?
Silence. I didn't think so. Mom called me 2 hours later, full of guilt-wrapped manipulation. Claire, sweetheart, Jacob's struggling. Your father is under a lot of pressure. We didn't think you'd want the title. You always said you weren't power-hungry. Power-hungry.
No.
I was respect-hungry. Fairness-hungry. And I was starving. All those years I showed up because I thought love meant loyalty, even at your own expense.
But now?
I was learning that sometimes love is knowing when to walk away. and letting the people who replaced you feel what you carried in silence. The thing about family businesses? They carry history, but not always the truth. And in ours, the truth had my fingerprints all over it. It was me who stayed when the warehouse flooded in 2017. Me who cut my college trip short to help Dad fire that dishonest accountant. Me who redesigned our entire operations manual when OSHA nearly shut us down. But when it came time to pass the torch, they pretended I was just holding the flashlight. I scrolled through the company website one evening and felt my stomach knot. My name gone. No operations manager. No head of client relations. Not even an about Claire. Just Jacob's grinning face on the homepage, next to a caption that said, "Proudly carrying the family legacy forward." Legacy? That word stung. I still remembered sitting cross-legged on the warehouse floor at age 12, counting screws with Mom while Dad gave Jacob a Nerf gun and let him roam around like a prince. Back then, I thought I was lucky that I was trusted. Now I knew better. I was just useful. Until I wasn't. Rachel, one of the old marketing interns I mentored, called me out of the blue. Her voice was low, urgent. "Claire, I know you're not involved anymore, but I think you should see this." She sent me a screenshot of a group email. It was from Jacob, titled, "Resetting Expectations." In it, he blamed the recent client fallout on previous mismanagement and claimed he was cleaning up years of inefficient systems. Years of my work. He was rewriting history in real time, erasing my name and painting over it with incompetence. But here's the thing about truth. You can bury it in spreadsheets and slogans. But eventually, it rises loud, sharp, and undeniable. That night, I drafted one email. It wasn't to Jacob, not to Mom, not even to Dad. It was to the Anderson Group's regional director, a woman I'd once helped save from a botched partnership clause that could have ruined her job. I told her the truth, not with bitterness, with receipts, attachments, timelines, meeting logs, proof that Jacob wasn't just unprepared. He was playing CEO with crayons while trying to paint over a Sistine Chapel I spent years creating. She replied in 20 minutes. "Claire, thank you. Let's talk." And I knew right then. They may have handed him the crown, but the kingdom?
It still listened to me.
2 weeks after I left, the office phones were ringing, but not with new business. The Anderson Group? Already gone. Pierce Logistics? Reevaluating our relationship. And Caldwell Retail, our second largest account? They called me directly. "Claire," the rep said, voice taut with hesitation, "are you still involved? Because we'd love to move forward, but we can't do that with Jacob. He doesn't listen." I didn't gloat. I just listened.
And took notes.
Because if there's one thing years of invisible labor teaches you, it's how to listen for the cracks before the building falls. By week 3, 4 different clients had reached out personally, all asking the same thing. "Are you consulting independently yet?" The word hit differently. Consulting. As in valued, needed, respected. I hadn't even considered it, but the universe had. I filed my LLC paperwork that night. Green Standard Consulting, named not for the family, but for the standard they could never meet without me. The next day, I posted a simple update on LinkedIn. After years of experience scaling operations, building loyalty, and forging long-term client trust in the supply chain industry, I'm proud to announce the launch of my own consulting firm. My inbox is open. Let's build better together. It exploded. Messages poured in. Old interns, vendors, clients I hadn't heard from in years. Even 2 of our current employees messaged. "Claire, if you're building something, we want in." Meanwhile, Jacob tried to restructure the company in my absence. That meant laying off our receptionist, the same woman who'd been with us for 14 years. Replacing vendors I handpicked with cheaper, unreliable ones. And worst of all, he tried to rebrand, with a logo that looked like it was made in PowerPoint by a teenager in 2002. It was laughable, until it wasn't. Until Dad called again. "Claire, sweetheart, we're losing too much. We didn't realize how much of the business was tied to you." Tied to me? It was me. But I didn't say that. I just said, You broke the machine and handed the pieces to someone who thought buttons were decoration. Now you want me to fix it." He went quiet, then said, "What would it take for you to come back?" And I smiled, because he still didn't get it. I wasn't coming back. I was building forward. And this time, I owned the blueprints. A week after my announcement, I met with Caldwell Retail in a downtown cafe. The same cafe where Dad used to take client meetings before he got too important to meet outside a boardroom. Their VP leaned in and said, "Claire, we've seen your work. We trust your judgment. If you're consulting, we'd rather pay you than continue chasing your brother for answers he can't give." I signed my first independent contract by noon, and the moment my pen hit paper, something inside me clicked into place. Not revenge, not spite.
Power.
The kind that comes from no longer needing anyone's permission to take up space. By week 2, 3 more clients transitioned. One even asked if I could train their new operations team, using my original systems, not the diluted mess Jacob had put in place. Meanwhile, back at Green and Company, things were deteriorating fast. Word had gotten around. Jacob's own assistant, a smart woman named Nina, who I once mentored, emailed me confidentially. "Claire, he's falling apart.
Can't keep up.
Blames everyone. Morale is tanking. Your dad's furious, but pretending it's fine. Thought you should know." I didn't respond. I didn't need to. Because while they scrambled to hold up the crumbling structure, I was already 5 floors above them, quietly constructing my own. The irony? They thought I left out of emotion. But this was calculation. The same precision I used to save their company from collapse 5 times before, I was now using to build something that didn't include them. Then came the final blow. Anderson Group reached out again. Their regional director, the same woman I once helped rewrite a contract clause late into the night over coffee, wanted to renew under my new banner.
"Claire," she said.
"We don't want Green and Company anymore. We want Green Standard. Name your rate." I named it. She agreed, without hesitation. And in that moment I realized. They hadn't just lost a daughter. They'd lost their engine. They built a business on my back, and when they thought they could replace me with a name and a smile, the whole thing cracked. That night, Dad sent a long email. No subject line. No greeting. Just 6 words.
"Please, can we talk?
Come home." And I knew that wasn't a father writing. It was a man watching the doors he'd shut swing open behind him. Because the people they dismissed as just support are often the ones who carry the kingdom. The next morning, I woke up to an email from Pierce Logistics, a client we'd once lost during the pandemic because Jacob mishandled their entire order cycle. Subject: Proposal for exclusive partnership. They wanted me to lead a full restructure of their national operations, not as a consultant this time, but as a strategic partner. A minority stake. 6-figure retainer. My name on the letterhead. I stared at the numbers for a long time. Not because I doubted I deserved it, but because a part of me still remembered when my dad said, "Claire, you're smart, but you're not built for leadership. You're too close to things. Too soft." Turns out, soft doesn't mean weak. It means exact. It means listening harder. It means carrying things longer than you should. And then, when you're finally ready, it means rising with precision. That afternoon, I signed the contract. And within hours, it hit the trades. Former Green and Company. Executive launches game-changing partnership with Pierce Logistics. Within minutes, my phone lit up. "Jacob."
"Wow. Congrats."
"I guess you really went all in."
"Mom."
"Is this really necessary? We're already hurting, Claire."
"Dad didn't text.
He sent me an email. You made your point.
We're sorry.
Please come back. You can run the company." Jacob agrees. Full control. We're desperate, Claire. Desperate. That word sat in my inbox like a shadow of every unpaid hour, every silent dinner, every nod they gave my brother while I stood in the background holding everything together. I didn't respond. Instead, I wrote a newsletter to my growing client base. When they hand your legacy to someone who hasn't earned it, you have 2 options: beg to be seen or walk away and build something brighter. I chose the second. And I'll never look back. It went viral. Comments flooded in. Strangers shared their stories. Women from all over the country told me how they'd given up careers, companies, ideas, all for families who expected loyalty without acknowledgement. But the comment that froze me? It was from one of our old vendors, an older man named Carl who used to deliver wood pallets in the dead of winter. "Claire, you were the only one who ever helped me carry the load. They should have built the company around you, not over you." That night, I opened a bottle of champagne. Alone. Not sad. Not angry. Victorious. And as I watched the bubbles rise, I thought, they built their empire on my back. But now I was building my own. And mine? It had my name on every wall. A month later, Green and Company quietly announced their closure. No press release. No farewell. Just a notice on their website. Due to unforeseen financial challenges, we are ceasing operations effective immediately. Unforeseen? They were warned. They were told. They were just too proud to listen to the one voice that built the foundation beneath their feet. Jacob moved to Florida to explore tech startups. Dad started consulting part-time for a smaller firm. Mom retreated into book clubs and quiet social media posts about forgiveness and growth. They never mentioned me publicly. But silence has a sound, and theirs was deafening. I didn't celebrate their downfall. I didn't have to, because my success wasn't a response to their failure. It was a rebirth from the ashes of their betrayal. Pierce Logistics tripled their revenue under my direction. Anderson Group referred me to 3 new accounts, 2 international. I hired Nina. I hired Carl's son. I built a team of people who once stood in my shadow and deserved light. At our company's 1-year anniversary gala, I stood on stage in a sleek black suit, holding a glass of wine, facing a crowd that wasn't obligated by blood, but bonded by belief. I didn't build this out of revenge, I told them. I built it out of recognition. Of who I was, of what I gave, and of what I would no longer give away without value. They applauded. Not because they had to, because they understood. After the gala, I sat alone in my office for a while, watching the city through the glass. The same skyline I once saw from my dad's old truck window, driving home late from the warehouse, wondering if I'd ever be more than the reliable one. Now, I was the visionary, the architect, the name on the door. And as I turned off the lights for the night, my phone buzzed with a single message from Dad. "I saw your speech. You earned everything. We were wrong." I didn't reply, because sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's the sound of your own footsteps in a space you built alone, and no longer needing to look back. They chose my brother for the throne, but I built the kingdom.